Thank you. Respected faculties, dear audience, um, let us discuss on examination of respiratory system. Um, when you are asked to examine respiratory system, that includes examination of chest and related general examination. That means examination of chest and examination of respiratory system are not same. The examination of chest is part of examination of respiratory system. So when you are asked, or in long case, when you will examine the respiratory system, you should examine respiratory related general examination findings and then chest examinations. So first of all, wipes. Wash your hand, especially in this COVID time, and introduce yourself first. That I am Dr. Aminul Islam. My profession is that so. Then take permission and position. You have to take permission that what you are going to do, and the position is important, both of doctor and the patient. Patient should be in 45-degree angle in bed. If it is not feasible in that environment, that means you cannot fold the bed in 45-degree, then you should apply adequate number of other clothings or balish to make the patient propped up. Then since explain that what you are going to do. And last of all, you have to survey the scenario around the patient, whether there is any sputum port under the bed, or there is any inhaler, nebulizer machine, BiPAP machine, or other peak expiratory flow meter, other respiratory appliances around the patient. And if you if you see any sputum port under the bed, you have to mention the content. And that is also the part of respiratory system examination. That is also part of your general examination. If you mention that there are inhalers, I have seen there is a nebulizer machine around the patient, that will increase the value of your examination findings. Then what are the general examinations related to respiratory system? From above downward, you have to look at eyes, face, mouth cavity, neck, hands, and legs. In eyes, you have to look for congestion of conjunctiva, features of Horner syndrome, ptosis, anemia. In face, whether this is plethoric, whether this is swollen, as we've seen in superior vena cava obstruction, any connective tissue disease related changes. Say in systemic sclerosis, the skin of face will be changed. In SLE, you will get a special type of rash, which may cause respiratory problem, say interstitial lung disease, pleural effusion, or any sort of connective tissue disease related respiratory problem. You have to note this. In mouth cavity, in tongue and lip, look for cyanosis, candidiasis. If the patient uses steroid inhaler, partial breathing. In case of COPD patients, patient feel easy to expel his air in this way, in partial breathing. In the neck, whether this is swollen, the cricosternal distance, the distance between the sternum, upper border of sternum and cricoid cartilage should be 3 finger or more. If it is reduced, that indicates the chest has expanded and sternum has tilted upward. So distance will be decreased. So if the cricosternal distance is decreased, this will indicate the hyperinflation. Lymph node, very important in respiratory examination. If you get lymph node in neck, screening lymph node, it is already in N3. In TNM classification, we know N1, N2, N3. It may be ipsilateral or contralateral, any lymph node, no matter ipsilateral or contralateral, it is N3 lymph node. JBP, very important part of respiratory and cardiac examination. In JBP examination, the most common wrongdoing we do is we place this scale uh, vertical to the patient. Actually, this should be vertical to the floor or horizontal plane. So this is upper limit of jugular venous pulse. We'll place this scale, one scale or pencil parallel to the horizontal plane. And this scale should be 90 degrees with the floor, not with the sternum. And this distance, if this distance from manubrium sternum to this scale is 7 centimeter, for example, then his JBP is 7 centimeter of water. This is pursed lip breathing. And examination of hand in respiratory system is very vital. You have to look for clubbing, anemia, feature of carbon dioxide retention, that is flapping tremor, or a patient who takes inhaler, he may have fine tremor due to bronchodilator, beta agonist. Nicotine stain is very important. This indicates not only smoker, this indicates heavy smoker. You need not go deeply for heavy smoking in even if the patient gives false information, but there is nicotine stain. Don't rely on that. This nicotine stain indicates the patient is a heavy smoker. Pulse is important. In carbon dioxide retention, the volume of pulse is increased. Regarding clubbing, the only clubbing may be a short case, and often this is given as short case to examine the clubbing. The initial part is very initially, you will not get clubbing like this or like this. Very initially, there will be fluctuation of soft tissue, and in this way, your fingers will be placed. Then clockwise, and the next phase, this angle will be obliterated. Yeah, this is normal, and this is clubbing. And last of all, drumstick appearance. In legs, that means leg edema, we know that cor pulmonale will cause leg edema, or other than cor pulmonale, in hypoxia, in hypoxic patient due to ischemia of kidneys, there will be salt and water retention. So without heart failure, a COPD patient, a hypoxic patient may present with leg edema. Leg edema does not mean patient has definitely has cor pulmonale. Unless you get parasternal hip, unless you get raised JBP, don't first say the patient has cor pulmonale. First is water retention, second is cor pulmonale. The DVT, deep vein thrombosis, is very intimately related to pulmonary embolism and chronic thromboembolic pulmonary hypertension. And this examination, when a patient develops sudden respiratory distress, when a patient develops sudden chest pain or breathlessness, you must examine his cuff. You must examine his lower limb to see whether any deep vein thrombosis is present or not. If any deep vein thrombosis is present, unless otherwise proved, this is a case of acute pulmonary embolism. Then the surroundings I have already mentioned. Then it's our main part, examination of chest. In examination of chest does not mean the examination of front only. From today's history and examination, we can assume that the chest means only front. There is nothing about back of the chest. Okay, during description, you did not mention what about posterior scapular line, posterior interscapular line, only mid-clavicular line, only mid-clavicular line. So chest means front of the chest and back of the chest. Front of the chest includes mid-clavicular line and mid-axillary line. So when you are asked to examine the chest, then don't take permission in between the two. That means after taking examining the front of the chest, don't ask the examiner that should I examine the back. This is a negative point. Chest means front and back. You should spontaneously go to back. And if you are inhibited, there's another thing, and you should start examination of back of the chest. In the back of the chest, you should examine the above scapula, just 1 or 2 stroke, then interscapular line, that's between vertebra and scapula on both sides, then infrascapular line. Below the angle of scapula, we will give some stroke or give place our stethoscope too. So this is in chest. Yeah, we will examine in mid clavicular line. So you have examined near midline, and Professor Ridwan Ahmad sir has noted this. If you examine the patient near midline, your interpretation will be wrong, because near midline, maybe in front or maybe in the back, you will get the sound that originated in the upper airways, that means larynx, trachea. You will get bronchial breath sound, and normally that is physiological. So you should follow the mid clavicular line anteriorly, and what happens in posterior side, we will see later on. And in mid axillary line, that is mid axillary line. And in mid axillary line, you have mentioned that anteriorly this is fourth, and at mid axillary line this is third. It is possible. It is never possible, because if you imagine the anatomy, the fourth space, that means the intercostal, I will not go to anatomy. Fourth space, mid clavicular line, this will be the mid axillary line should be down, say sixth space, and the gap is usually 2. Maybe may vary in real case, but when you are confused or when you have not examined the patient, you say fourth, it is sixth. So this will be near the truth. But if you say anteriorly third, anteriorly fourth, and axillary third, this is totally wrong. It is not possible. So if it is anteriorly fourth space, in axillary, mid axillary, this will be 6. In posterior scapular, this will be 8. 4, 6, 8. That means 2 difference. So if it is in the second space, in the mid axillary line, this is fourth space, and in posterior scapular line, this is sixth space. 2, 4, 6 there. And in axilla, the fourth to sixth space. The first space in the axilla is fourth space. Don't say that in the second space in the axilla. That will be another blunder. In back of the chest, we will examine the above the scapula, between the scapula in this way, and we will ask the patient to sit in this way. And after examining the front, we will ask the patient to sit down, and we will stand behind the patient to examine him. So traditionally, examination of chest, inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation. And inspection is very important. Say you have inspected the patient, but no one knows, we didn't know what is the respiratory rate. And respiratory rate is the first point of examination of respiratory system and pattern. What's the respiratory rate? Respiratory rate must be mentioned. And during examination of respiratory system, you should not focus on respiration in front of the patient. Just I am examining your respiratory rate, then patient will start hyperventilate, and there the respiratory rate will increase. You just palpate the pulse. Just you pretend that you are looking to examine the pulse, look at your finger, but observe his respiration and count. Usually this is 12 to 16, maybe up to 20. But if it is 20, that is definitely abnormal. Pattern is important, respiratory pattern. Say Kussmaul's breathing, a patient of metabolic acidosis, a patient of CKD, diabetic ketoacidosis, you can say this is a case of metabolic acidosis. A common question, patient has respiratory distress, but chest examination is normal. The acidosis is one of the finding. So there is deep and rapid breathing, deep sighing respiration. There is no apnea in between. That is Kussmaul's breathing. Patient has highly active respiratory effort, then goes to apnea, again highly active respiratory effort, then goes to apnea. This is um, chain stroke breathing. Huh. Patient cannot uh, patient cannot um, take deep breath, cannot deep breath, and full inspiration is not possible, especially in middle-aged female. That may be psychogenic hyperventilation. That means there will be repeated breathing, but he cannot expand his or her chest. That is psychogenic breathing, hyperventilation. So this pattern of respiration should be maintained, like apex beat, the location, character, the respiratory rate and pattern, character, pulse, rate, character. The character should be added to the rate when examining respiration. Then shape, symmetry, and deformity, very important. And while inspecting symmetry, you should change your position, not keep you stuck on the right side. Go to his foot end, go to his head end. And symmetry is very important. And to compare the two sides on both sides, from one angle, it is often difficult. And if there is lack of movement on one side, that means the chest become asymmetrical, and then the pathology lies in that side. And symmetry may be changed due to some anatomical problem, musculoskeletal problem, vertebral problem too. We will see later on. The shape of the chest, very important. A normal shape, there is nothing to describe the normal shape of the chest. This may be due to involvement of bone, muscle, vertebra. But if these are excluded, there is no congenital or acquired musculoskeletal vertebral problem, and the altered shape may be possible due to the underlying respiratory illness. Say in emphysema, patient may develop barrel-shaped chest. In post-TB fibrosis, patient may, in pleural thickening, patient may develop shoulder drooping. The anatomy may be changed. The shape of the chest may be changed. So this shape, symmetry, deformity, these all are important. Movement of chest. In inspection, we usually utter the term movement, and in palpation, we use the term expansion. The movement of chest, whether overall chest movement is diminished or whether movement at the single side, say right side or left side, is diminished. Say the patient, his left side is diminished. The diminished side has definite, very rarely there is exception, diminished side has definite underlying lung abnormality, lung or pleural abnormality. The involvement of accessory muscles, supraesternal, supraclavicular recession or excavation, intercostal ingrowing, all are features of respiratory distress, and all are seen especially in COPD patients. Any scar is very important. You have to note scar, say scar of lobectomy, scar of pneumonectomy. If you examine the front of the chest, you must keep your eyes, you must look on the lateral aspect. On the lateral aspect, the pneumonectomy scar is at the back. And often at the lateral aspect, you can see the margin, the one part of the scar. And if you see a scar in your exam time, you can assume the pathology is in that site, and maybe lobectomy or pneumonectomy. And accordingly, you can think again, you can rethink about your diagnosis and change. At the needle puncture mark, important. If there is a needle puncture mark, we can assume again there is pleural effusion in that point. And visible vein, very vital sign in inspection. And as soon as you see a visible vein, you find a visible vein, you must see the direction using your fingers. That touching the patient is not part of palpation. That is part of inspection. And if the flow is downward, that is superior vena cava obstruction. If the flow is upward above umbilicus, that is inferior vena cava obstruction. These are some patterns of respiration. See how the shape of the chest can be changed. This is pigeon chest. This is Harrison sulcus. This is funnel chest, scurvy, ricket. These anatomical changes, musculoskeletal changes has changed the shape of the chest. Problems of vertebra, the forward bending, kyphosis, lateral bending, scoliosis, both forward and lateral bending, that means kyphoscoliosis. And these are important in another aspect. These changes the position of apex. It shifted the apex toward more left without any underlying lung pathology or underlying cardiac pathology. So if you get shifted apex in a patient with such deformity, don't interpret as pulmonary or cardiac pathology at the first instance. You have to think twice that whether this is due an anatomical abnormality or due to lung pathology. And after excluding all congenital or acquired musculoskeletal problem, there are some other cases of altered shape I have already mentioned due to underlying respiratory problem. Say in emphysema, anterior posterior diameter has increased. This is called barrel-shaped chest. And in posterior fibrosis or in pleural thickening, the shoulder has drooped, that is shoulder drop. Say there is scar of pneumonectomy or lobectomy. When patient lies on back, on his or her back, you can see this portion by meticulous inspection from front. Otherwise, you will miss. Then palpation. For palpation, trachea, apex, expansion, and buccal femmitus, the traditional 4 points, especially first 3, trachea, apex, and expansion. Yeah, if there is, if the situation demands, you have to examine for tenderness, you have to examine for surgical emphysema. That means palpable crepes in the chest wall or in the limbs. So look at the anatomy before going to palpation. This is a supraesternal notch. Here we know it's trachea, and this is sternal angle. Just below the sternal angle, the second space. The once you have already located the apex, just count from here. Professor Adnan Yusuf sir has asked you why you have not counted. Counted the spaces. You must count the second space, third space. Imagine you have located the apex here. So first locate from sternal angle from upper border of sternum to the first rees, palpable point, sternal angle. Just below the sternal angle, second space, third space, fourth space, fifth space. And by keeping your finger constant at that point and measure by a tape from midline. So the description will be apex bit located in the 5th intercostal space. If it is 7 centimeter from midline, or if it is 7.5 centimeter, that's also. And the location is very vital. Location of apex to see location of apex and trachea to comment on mediastinal shifting. If you examine this apex for cardiac cause or precordium examination, you must add character and thrill at the same time, location, character, thrill. But in respiratory system, exhalation of chest, location is enough, because our main aim is not to see the pathology of heart. Our main aim is to see whether the mediastinum is shifted or not, if you are focused on respiratory system examination. See, that is first space, second space, third space. This fourth space goes to the axilla. And fourth space, fifth space, sixth, seventh space, up to 4th to 7th space, you will get in axilla. Don't say at 9th space in the axilla. Don't say second space or first space in axilla. 4th to 7th. Up to 8 rib you can count in axilla. So how to examine trachea? You the two method, the single finger and triple finger method. The single finger, you just place your finger at the trachea through suprasternal notch and feel whether it is deviated or not. The three finger method, you place your middle finger at the trachea and other two finger, index and ring finger, between trachea and sternocleidomastoid muscle and feel for deviation. Both is right in the correct way. The apex beat. In this way, you place your fingers, then locate the apex beat. If apex beat is not palpable, you should go to optimum position and respiration. Optimum position is left lateral position. Optimum respiration is breath hold after expiration. Then try to locate. If still it is not palpable, then you can say apex beat is not palpable. And after locating the apex, you are counting from second intercostal space. And second intercostal space, you have counted from sternal angle. So if there is any mediastinal shifting, that means why we have examined trachea and apex. We have examined trachea and apex to see any mediastinal shifting. That means trachea and apex shifted to left, for example. Then we cannot still say the pathology on the left side or right side. That because these apex and trachea may be pulled or pushed. So the next physical examination, that means percussion, breath sound, and the expansion, that will guide you. If the problem of the other examinations on the left side, that means the problem on their side. If the other examination findings problem on the right side, the problem on the right side. So on both sides, it is the problem may lie. So how to examine the chest expansion? Chest expansion, you should say in front. In front, you place your fingers like this. The sternum, both thumbs should be free from skin. The thumb should not, especially the distal part of the distal phalanx, should not touch the skin. And this should lie at the midline, absolutely in the midline. Then I will ask the patient, take deep breath. So I will examine its absolute movement. If it is not moving as per my expectation, that means overall movement is diminished. And if one side movement is okay, but other side moves less, the problem on the side that is less mobile. So thumb act as a sensor. Thumb as a sensor. If it moves less, the movement is diminished on their side. And on the front, we will examine in this point. On the back, we will examine in the upper part. In this way, we will place our fingers. The thumb will in the midline. Thumbs will remain in the midline. This is on the back. That means lower part. We will place our fingers like this. Thumb like this. Thumb will be free from skin. But tip of the thumbs will be at the midline, and we will tell the patient to take deep breath, and it will expand. So if the expansion is overall diminished, that may be due to COPD, interstitial lung disease, bilateral extensive disease, or hidebound chest seen in respiratory systemic sclerosis. If the movement is asymmetrical, that means on the left side, say, that may be due to left-sided pleural effusion, left-sided pneumothorax, left-sided consolidation, collapse, fibrosis. That means the pathology always lies at the site of, on the side of less expansion or diminished expansion. Buccal fremitus, we will discuss it along with resonance. This is actually not practiced much nowadays. The vocal femmeters, you are on the right side of the patient on supine position, and ask the patient to say 99 or 3 and you will feel the vibration. You can use this surface or you can use your fingertips. Both is acceptable. Then vocal femmeters, vocal resonance, and breath sound, all three goes in same direction. If vocal femmeters is raised, vocal resonance and breath sound will also raise. If you say vocal femmeters diminished, vocal resonance increased, breath sound diminished, that will be totally wrong. All go in same direction. We'll see later. So same point in mid axillary line, in mid clavicular line, in mid axillary line, and in posterior scapular line. We will examine on all the lines if we examine vocal femmeters. Then come to percussion. Percussion is very vital part of examination. Say breath sound is diminished. Breath sound may be diminished in pneumothorax. Breath sound may be diminished in pleural effusion. Then how to differentiate? That percussion will tell this is pneumothorax. It will not be dull. The percussion will tell this is fluid, this is not air. So this percussion is important. Say in a common rule, all the conditions in this universe, a Bishop Brahmande, joto respiratory disease ase, সবগুলিতে percussion note ডাল হবে যাদের breath sound কম. Breath sound কম, percussion note must dull, except air, except two conditions. That means pneumothorax and large bulla. So if we get diminished breath sound and percussion note is not dull, that means I am not sure this is hyperresonant, but I am sure this is not dull. You are sure that this is either pneumothorax or bulla. This is air. You should find out, you should be able to find out that this is not dull. Even if you miss hyperresonance, you can confidently say this is pneumothorax. Pneumothorax is very easily mean. I repeat, if breath sound is diminished, percussion note must be dull except pneumothorax. Say consolidation, say pleural effusion, say collapse, say fibrosis, it should be dull. But in pneumothorax, percussion note will not be dull. In place the fingers like these. You percuss first above the clavicle and just at the medial end of the clavicle directly, and you can percuss so many sites in intercostal spaces, but this is not necessary. Just 4 spaces, 3 to 4 spaces at the anterior mid clavicular line, and 3 space in mid axillary line, and just 4 space in the posterior scapular line, interscapular line. You need not percuss more than this. And if you percuss more, that's okay, but it should be on the intercostal space, not over the ribs. So you place your finger like this at the middle finger, and this middle finger will act as a percussant, like a hammer-like effect. And after just percussion, you remove your hand. And a common mistake, two common mistake, we do not place this finger very firmly. You should not place this just lightly. You should place firmly, and only this wrist should move, not the elbow. The movement should come absolutely from the wrist joint. An examiner will observe whether you will moving your both joint, and he will take a decision that how much you have practiced in respiratory examination from this movement of your elbow. So in front, we'll percuss supraclavicular space on both sides, always symmetrically. Respiratory examinations, whether this is vocal femmeters, whether percussion, whether auscultation, I will not mention in each and every point. You must consider by default, it should be symmetrical. We just compare right and left, right and left. For apical pathology, at the suprasternal, supraclavicular area, and over the clavicle directly, and 4 space like this in anterior clavicular, in anterior mid clavicular line, then 3 space in mid axillary line we will examine. So never say percussion note is normal. That I have seen a brilliant doctor has failed in postgraduate examination, despite his findings were normal. He said percussion note was normal. You should say percussion note is resonant. Yeah, resonant means normal, but the terminology resonance should be um, used. So percussion note may be resonant, may be hyper-resonant if pneumothorax or large bulla, maybe udidal if consolidation or collapse, maybe stonyidal if there is fluid. That means pleural effusion. Even if you know this is hemothorax, even if you know there is underlying pus, that means history of aspiration of blood or pus, you need not say in clinical examination, in short case, that patient has empyema, patient has hemothorax. In long case, from history, you can assume the patient has blood accumulation is likely, say, following trauma. But other than this, in short case, where you did not have any exposure to the patient's history, you just say pleural effusion. Like chest X-ray. In chest X-ray, we say pleural effusion. We don't say that it is hemothorax. So during percussion, you must note the upper border of liver dullness. As time is short, on the same setting of percussion, you should note. Normally, it lies in the sixth space. The percussion note, upper border liver dullness in the sixth space. If it is downward, that is most likely case of COPD. And on the right side, the upper border, you will get shifting of resonance to dullness. And on the left, you will get shifting of the resonance to tympanic sound as there will be stomach below. And on the right side, and the upper border liver dullness, this is not very important. If you are confused, this upper border liver dullness is due to liver or any lung pathology, you just take tell the patient to take deep inspiration. If after inspiration, percussion becomes resonant, this is due to liver, because with deep inspiration, liver fall down. And if still the percussion is dull, the pathology is due to lung. But this is not very important for your examination, just interesting point. So let us go to auscultation. Auscultation is to breath sound, added sound, and vocal resonance. For breath sound, you must mention quantity and quality. That means breath sound vesicular. That means, but this quality is vesicular or bronchial or vesicular prolonged expiration. These are the qualities. But whether this is diminished or not, you should be mentioned. Or if there is vesicular sound, definitely this is not absent. But Mr. Karim has vesicular bass sound, Rohim has vesicular bass sound. But Karim may have pathology because his bass sound is vesicular, the quality is okay, but this is diminished. So that is always, you will not get the breath sound is absent in pleural effusion or in collapse. This may be diminished. The diminished is equivalent to absent. If more severe, this will be absent. If less severe, this will be diminished. But the finding will be equivalent. In one patient, you have not get any breath sound, pleural effusion. In another patient, you get breath sound, vesicular, but this is diminished. This is also pleural effusion. So quantity important, whether this is normal or diminished or absent. Bronchial breath sound. A bronchial breath sound, and that means actually this is a blowing sound. When you blow over a bottleneck on the mouth of a bottle, you will get some type of imagine the sound. That is bronchial. And theoretically, not theoretical, this is practical too. The inspiratory phase is longer in vesicular, and both inspiration and expiration is equal in bronchial. And in bronchial, there is a gap between the two. And vesicular prolonged expiration, there is no gap. That means this is vesicular. But normally, inspiration is prolonged, but in COPD or asthma, the expiration is prolonged. This is called vesicular prolonged expiration. We will see figure later on. Say, breath sound. Vesicular and bronchial. The vesicular breath sound, this is vesicular and this is bronchial. Actually, normally the sound we get in the trachea is bronchial breath sound. And our breath sound is generated at larynx and trachea. So if in the pathway there is a there is consolidation, or there is loss of alveoli, say in fibrosis, this sound with high pitch, that means that bronchial breath sound, that means say bronchial breath sound is generated in trachea. The sound we get in trachea is bronchial. Normally, first I should say what happens in normal patient. Normally, that bronchial breath sound, that high-pitched sound is rectified in the alveoli. And after rectification, re-rectification, we get the sound in my stethoscope. So this high-pitched sound turns to low pitch. That means that bronchial sound turns to low pitch sound. Bronchial sound converted to vesicular sound normally, because after passing through the alveoli, the high-pitched tracheal sound became rectified and attenuated and become vesicular. So, but if there is any pathology, say at the pathway of the sound in alveoli, there is solidification, there is consolidation. So this sound cannot be rectified. So we get directly this sound, what is generated in the large airway. And there in between my stethoscope and the site of generation, there is a consolidation. And that solid media act as a good good conduction for their sound. And exactly the same sound that is generated in the trachea, we get in the stethoscope. So when you get bronchial breath sound, this is definitely abnormal. Either that alveoli has some sort of substances that increase the conductance of that my tracheal sound. A typical example is consolidation. When there is consolidation, you get bronchial breath sound. So these differences, the vesicular breath sound, low pitch, that is high pitch, vesicular breath sound, that is inspiration is longer than expiration, I have already mentioned. And where you should put your stethoscope, above the clavicle, then below the clavicle, in 4 to 5 space, you should put your stethoscope, and always compare. That means say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is from a textbook. This is okay. And you have asked whether we should go in this way or this should be 3, 4, and 5, 6. This was your question. Am I right? This was your question. So this is right. And at the same time, that is also right. In one textbook, they have mentioned 3, 4, then 5, 6, then zigzag manner. And this is a textbook, this Tallis textbook, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just I personally feel this is easier than that zigzag manner. So put your stethoscope in these points in supine position while examining the front of the chest. And at the same time, never forget about mid-axillary line. Mid-axillary line, you should also auscultate. In the front, we get information most from the upper lobe. And in the mid-axillary line and the axilla, we get information mostly from middle lobe and part of upper lobe. And in the back, we get most information from the lower lobe. That means the little part of upper lobe above the scapula, and rest of the whole lung field is lower lobe. While you are examining the back of the chest. This is the example from another book. 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 5, 6, then zigzag manner. Both is right. You can examine as your choice. Then come to vesicular prolonged expiration. This finding is very vital. If you get vesicular prolonged expiration, you sure this is either COPD or asthma. And when there is vesicular expiration, there will be no gap between inspiration and expiration. The expiration will be prolonged, maybe more than 6 seconds. Okay. Added sound, rhonchi crepes pleural rub. Rhonchi, you know, musical sound produced in narrowed bronchi and found in mostly asthma and COPD. And if the rhonchi is not diffuse, if the rhonchi is localized, this may be due to localized obstruction, say foreign body, say malignancy, localized obstruction. So this is an ominous sign. Localized rhonchi is not good. If you have rhonchi, you should pray. You should have rhonchi all over the lung fields. If it is not all over the lung fields, that is a bad thing. Pleural rub due to inflammation of pleura, that's a rubbing quality of the sound. This is added sound. Vocal resonance is important, and vocal resonance and vocal fremitas equal information. The resonance, if the breath sound is increased, if the breath sound is bronchial, when there is consolidation, at the same time vocal resonance will increase. I have already mentioned vocal resonance, vocal fremitas, breath sound, all will go in the same direction. If there is bronchial breath sound, that means increased breath sound, that his vocal resonance will also increase. His vocal fremitas will also increase. Note say breath sound is bronchial, vocal resonance is diminished. That will be blunder. That vocal resonance, same lines, same spaces, you will put your stethoscope and ask the patient to say 99, 99. The two part of vocal resonance is whispering pectorality and agophony. Whispering pectorality found in consolidation, just patient will whisper, say Brihospatibar, then you will clearly heard the sound through your stethoscope. And agophony, E to A sign. Patient's voice will get a nasal quality in the stethoscope. He will say E and you will heard A. That's nasal quality you will get. So vocal resonance, whispering pectorality, and agophony all supports consolidation if they are found or increased. So I have already mentioned the breath sound, vocal fremitas, vocal resonance, all same direction. To be more confirmed for different information, we examine all the 3 points. When this is decreased, I have already mentioned that when the alveoli is filled with, when becomes solidified or there is consolidation, we get increased breath sound. When it is decreased, it will be decreased. Say there is no alveoli, no solidification, that means alveoli is absence. Let's say collapse. If there is no alveoli, you will get less breath sound or no breath sound. Collapse is a typical example. Or imagine alveoli is okay, airway is okay, but there is a barrier between your stethoscope and the breath sound. That means between lung and chest wall, there is effusion, pleural effusion. Between lung and your stethoscope, there is pneumothorax. You will get diminished breath sound. Okay, so diminished breath sound means either loss of alveoli or alveoli is okay, there is barrier between alveoli and chest wall. Collapse due to loss of alveoli, pleural effusion, pneumothorax due to barrier between the two. Imagine this is a patient, not chest X-ray. There is a pathology on the left side. On the left side, the mediastinum has shifted to right, trachea shifted, heart shifted. And on the right X-ray or right patient, the mediastinum shifted to left. You will get almost same breath sound. Breath sound will be absent on both sides. But where is the pathology? Where is the pathology? For this, you have to take support from trachea and heart, mediastinum. As mediastinum has shifted to opposite side, this is not collapse. This is not pneumonectomy. This is not volume loss. This is pleural effusion. This is pleural effusion. Shifted to opposite side. As mediastinum shifted to same side, so this is not pleural effusion. This is either collapse, or if there is scar, or in the X-ray there is a cut margin, this is pneumonectomy, maybe agenesis, but this is not pleural effusion. So if you imagine this patient, if from back you get diminished bass sound, percussion note dull, don't say this is pleural effusion. Don't say this is collapse, because you don't know the position of trachea. You have been asked to examine the back, and you got the percussion note dull, maybe woody or stony dull, you are confused. You got bass sound absent. Examiner said, what is your diagnosis? You said pleural effusion. Another one said collapse. Both are in not right way. You should tell the examiner that I should please, if you allow, I want to examine the trachea and apex. Why trachea and apex? If the mediastinum shifted to the same side, this is collapse. If it is opposite side, this is pleural effusion. The examiner may allow you, or may say that tell your, no, I will not allow you, tell your differential diagnosis. You tell then pleural effusion, collapse, all are right. But after examining the front of the chest, you should not keep pleural effusion in your collapse DD or collapse in your pleural effusion DD. So that will be a very smart answer, that I want to examine the trachea position. And from that point, you have passed. Examiner will not ask you examine the trachea. Examiner will assume you are smart enough to pass this examination. So when there is shift of the mediastinum on the opposite side, say trachea shifted, heart shifted to the left side, breath sound is absent, and you are not sure whether this is pleural effusion or pneumothorax. That will be guided by percussion note. If percussion note dull, opposite side, this is pleural effusion. If percussion note is resonant, this is pneumothorax. If, I repeat, if you are confused about hyperresonance, this bass sound is diminished. If it is pleural effusion or other pathology or collapse, the bass sound, the percussion note should be dull. But you are sure that this percussion note is not dull. At the same time, you are confused, this is not hyperresonant. So this will go in favor of hyperresonant, because if there is pathology other than pneumothorax, percussion note will be definitely dull. I have already mentioned in the front of the chest, we mostly examine the upper lobe. In the back, we mostly examine the lower lobe. This is the thank you all. If you have any question, you may ask. Thank you.